So I'm going to do a time lapse now and trace out the rest of these pieces of our atlas texture. Between each new object, I am going to make sure I return to object mode and then start with my new piece of geometry. Okay, if we're inside of edit mode, I can create more pieces, but if you look at our object count over here, it's not changing even though we're adding more pieces. That's because you'd be adding more geometry inside of the same object. And right now we want to keep it simple and just start with one object per. Okay, for this last one, I do want to do this in real time because I think it provides some interesting challenges and opportunities. I am going to still use the plane method for modeling this. Now remember, any of the same hotkeys, scale, rotate, move, or grab, apply here. And if you're just selecting an edge at a time, you can see it's unbound to move the entire object. If we select the whole object, we're rotating everything, for example. If I just select this edge, I can rotate these edges to be better parallel with the way the shape flows. So I'll hit extrude, move along here, maybe rotate again. We can scale this if we want to make it bigger or smaller. Okay, and now I kind of see how we have these two different pieces that are about to divert. What I want to go ahead and do is subdivide this edge. So Control R. And now we've got two different edges we can pull from. And I'm actually going to take both together, holding down Shift, and I'm going to bring them out here. And now from here, I'm going to extrude them individually. Now we do need to do some cleanup on this. We don't want these pieces overlapping at this stage. When we UV unwrap things, it could cause some problems, so we're going to make sure these are tucked in and just kind of taking up their own space. They can be close. And if we ever need more geometry, we can always find an edge we want to divide and go ahead and Control R. So that's going to help me just make that turn a little more gracefully. Similarly here, I think I want to add another piece to fill this valley. And then I'll keep cleaning up by just tightening up. So one thing I want to show you in case you ever do get lost, so maybe you've gone in close and you've orbited around and you've kind of lost your way. What you can do is you can click on an object somewhere in the collection over here and go to View, Frame Selected, and that'll bring you back. And then hopefully things will make a little more sense. The other hotkey I'm using again is the tilde, and that's going to bring up this kind of pie menu. And you can switch between your orthogonal views, and if you have something selected in the viewport, you can also view select that way. Okay, we've got all of our pieces traced out. What I'm going to do now is make sure that they are all in our components collection. So I'm going to hold down Shift on the keyboard, and in the collection panel, click on the first one, click on the last one, and with Shift held down, that will select everything in between, and drag them into our components collection. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn off our background image. Okay, we can just hide it like so. And we can get out of wireframe mode. We can go to shaded, and then we can also go to viewport shading, material preview. And you can see only one of our objects has the material on there, and start to apply our cans bones material here. You can see maybe it's not looking so good because we also need to UV unwrap these objects, and you could certainly have done that first. So in UV edit mode, let's go ahead and turn off or hide the component that we've already UV unwrapped. I'm just going to hide that one in object mode, and let's press A on the keyboard, press tab, and A again, and that's going to let us select all of the geometry inside of edit mode. And you can see the UVs have showed up over here on the left. Let's go to UV project from view, and you can see they've showed up. They're all scaled down a little small. It's okay. Let's, over here you can select with a marquee or A on the keyboard and S to scale up. Okay, and zooming in here, we're not going to really learn too much about what's happening as far as the actual material. So if we come over to this side, we can see where we're lining up. Okay, then you might want to do some pieces by themselves. So if we hover over the object we want to move, we can press L and then A to make sure we select all of that. And then you can see we can move this around. You can also move individual pieces of the mesh relative to the UV, and you can see how that changes it. Notice how we're actually moving the UV, not the mesh. The geometry on the right side isn't moving, but the piece on the left is, which then changes how the texture is interpreted. Okay, so we can see all of these objects are now cut out, looking pretty great. Okay, we can see our normal map and our roughness map are behaving, starting to get some semblance of 3D space. And I would actually go back to the layout tab now, and let's spend some time labeling these pieces. I'm going to turn back on the piece we hid. And you might want to now conceptualize these as how you want them to operate in their assembled foliage state. You know, right now we know these are cans and like a femur and a skull or something, but we're trying to reinterpret these as some kind of species or variation of a scattered object. You could just remake cans out of cans, but I want us to think with a little more fantasy. So this piece here, maybe let's call it stem 1, this piece. You can also hit F2 on the keyboard. Okay, so coming up with some kind of system might be helpful when it comes time to assemble and interpret these things. So call these. So we've got 6 different kinds of leaf building blocks, 4 different kinds of potential stem building blocks, the way we've got this set up. So now we can start thinking about how we want them to become our variations of our species. I'm going to go ahead and hit save because we've achieved a lot of work. And we're going to come back in the next video and talk about arrangement.